What is up, everybody? It is AJ, and there is some big news in the fight game. Kamaru Usman called out Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and Wonderboy answered the call out and said yes, and they're interested in doing the fight at UFC 295. I'd say this fight is verbally agreed upon, and I do really like the matchup. Wonderboy was supposed to fight against Michel Pereira last weekend. That fight obviously didn't happen. Wonderboy did not accept the bout with Pereira, who came in overweight for the fight, and he's also, trying to get his pay from the UFC at this point. A Kamaru Usman fight is obviously a massive payday in a pretty epic matchup. Now, UFC 295, November 11th, main event, John Jones versus Stipe Miocic. I think that this could be an excellent or featured bout of the night, but something that I think needs to happen here is a special 5-round type fight like they did with Nate Diaz and Tony Ferguson. I want to hear that this is another one of those 5-round fights, non-title, non-main event, because realistically, if we have fight night main events between top contenders that are 5 rounds, I want to see the same thing for top contenders, even if it's on a pay-per-view card. That's a strong request that I think has to be put in for this matchup here. I'm going to talk about the matchup between Usman and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in this video, but I have to immediately address the elephant in the room. Both Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Kamaru Usman are ducking Shavkat Rakhmonov. They do not want the Shavkat smoke. Now, for the side of Kamaru Usman, I guess I understand a little bit more, for the sense that he was a dominant champion, lost 2 fights back-to-back now to Leon Edwards, and then to be in a spot where he's potentially a sacrificial lamb for a young contender on the come-up. I understand why he would say no, and obviously they are both out of the same gym, though I'll say that argument bullshit to me, for the fact that, Kamaru Usman fought one of his best buddies in Gilbert Burns when they were training out of the same gym. And obviously Usman is doing a lot of work with Trevor Whitman too. So I would say that the gym situation is irrelevant. It's more Usman doesn't want to fight the next guy on the come up. But on the contrary, for Wonderboy, he's in a spot where he probably pissed the UFC off by not fighting Pereira. He's talking about he wants good stylistic matchups for him. But in the media interview that he did prior to his scheduled fight that did not happen with Michel Pereira, I know I just said Alex, with Michel Pereira, what did he say? I'm looking to be a world champion. I'm working towards contendership. Well, something that is an absolute that guys who look to get to the top of the weight class, I think, normally need to do is take on the dangerous contenders in the spot. It's not like Wonderboy is riding a 5 streak. He's got knockouts left and right. He's got, a 1-2 in his last 3 record right now? That's not a major selling point for somebody fighting for the world title. Granted, losses to pretty top-tier guys, which we'll get into in a second. I feel like for him, ducking Shavkat looks worse. Obviously, if the former champ royalty Usman wants to fight, then it makes sense. I want to get into the matchup between Usman and Wonderboy, and then I'm going to do a little bit of fantasy matchmaking for Shavkat, who unfortunately lost his opponent, Kelvin Gastelum, and is in need of somebody to fight. So make sure you guys smash that like button, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe. Let's talk about this Usman Wonderboy fight. Let's first talk about some recent fights for Kamaru Usman, and there's 2 losses in a row to the same guy, Leon Edwards. There's not a ton to say about him besides, holy shit, Leon Edwards is that dude, and he was able to beat Usman twice. But when you look back to the first fight, which wasn't that long ago, or excuse me, the rematch, the second fight, but the first of his losing streak, it was August 20th of 2022. Today, it's August 3rd, 2023. So about a year ago, Usman was beating Leon Edwards. Obviously was knocked out in brutal fashion, and then he loses when they face off, in the trilogy bout, and now has lost the trilogy to Leon Edwards. I still feel like he's a top-tier contender, and I mean, if he gets a couple of wins, Usman could surely climb his way back to the top. Problem is, though, He is 36 years of age with horrible knees, so that's a little bit of a red flag. Now, before he lost to Edwards twice, he has wins over Colby Covington, Masvidal, the likes of Gilbert Burns, Masvidal again before, Colby again before. So top-tier guys at that time at 170 is what Usman was facing off with, back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. And he had a nice streak going. He hadn't lost in the UFC until Leon Edwards head kicked him with a perfect technique. So Usman is in a spot where he wants some redemption and a kind of, I don't know, somewhat, I don't want to say super fight, because I feel like super fight is a word that we should only use for like super high level top pedigree fights between, you know, two champions or two former champs. But a matchup that is very intriguing to most fans because Wonderboy has always been a top contender. People were always wondering, what would a Wonderboy Usman fight look like? Now, on the side of Wonderboy, we can look at the past few. He's taken some losses. Now, obviously, beat Kevin Holland last time out in a weird fight where Holland didn't capitalize on top position, which definitely could have changed the direction of where that fight ended up going. You look at the Bilal Muhammad fight, he got pressed and, you know, controlled well by Bilal. That was a great performance, but Bilal's a machine at this point. Before that, he lost to Gilbert Burns, but Burns was mostly just desperately trying to get him to the ground, and it wasn't like he was able to do much damage at all in that fight. There were some takedowns, there was a bit of control, but there was nothing that was like, wow. I know Dana White after that fight was pissed at Gilbert Burns' performance. Had to do it. Now, when you dig back and watch him fight strikers, Jeff Neal, Vicente Luque, he's dominant in those fights. And obviously, he does have a loss to Anthony Pettis, which was an absolute fluke. I think he beats Pettis 9 times out of 10. It's just Pettis caught him with the Superman punch off the cage, put him out in a fight where Pettis was getting his ass whipped. So you look at Wonderboy's resume, really only losing to top caliber guys. Bilal fought Gilbert Burns and beat him on the cards, and Bilal beat Wonderboy more impressively. Bilal's just that dude. Bilal's like the guy that deserves the title shot the most, but just doesn't have maybe the backing of the UFC brass / the fan base. I mean, of course, there's some cult Bilal fans. You know, let me know in the comments if you're a fan of Bilal Muhammad. If you think that he's next in line for the title, let me know, because I want to kind of get an idea of how many of my subscribers are big on Bilal, because I don't think a large percentage is, maybe like 10%. So now I'm looking at this matchup, though. Wonderboy versus Usman. We've previewed the past few, and obviously Usman's resume is better, but Wonderboy has fought everybody. I mean, he challenged Tyron Woodley for the belt twice back in 2017, 2016, the first time out. Wonderboy's good shit. He's high tier, and he's a dangerous fight for Kamaru Usman even at 40 years of age. Reason being, Kamaru Usman, like I said, his knees are shot. This limits his mobility. And you saw a somewhat slowed Usman when he fought against Leon Edwards. I feel like he had a harder time closing the gap. The wrestling was essentially ineffective there. And Wonderboy's a guy who moves incredibly well. And he's not someone easy to take down. Obviously, we saw Bilal do it. But, you know, you dig back to the fight before and watch how much trouble Gilbert Burns had in controlling him. Kamaru Usman versus a Bilal Muhammad. Right now, I'd favor Bilal to beat a Kamaru. So that fight between Usman and Thompson is a lot more of a 50-50 than I think fans are thinking. Now, a true intangible here is the fact that Wonderboy is also 40. He has miles on the speedometer, and he got touched up a bit against Kevin Holland, even in his awesome win. And then I think about the matchup between these two. Usman's wrestling advantage is clear-cut, but where he wins this fight is probably not top position. And I think that Usman has to channel kind of the game that he had against Jorge Masvidal first time out. Be boring. Pressure Wonderboy against the cage. Control him. Work for some takedowns. Obviously, in the long range striking, Wonderboy's kickboxing game is as good as it gets. So that's why people want to see him fight Michael Venom Page, who might be signing with the UFC. And if he does sign, expect me to drop a video kind of guessing / predicting / you know what? Just me telling the UFC who Michael Venom Page should fight. Honestly, it probably would have been Wonderboy if not for this Usman fight, but we need the Usman fight. So I sit on the matchup and I'm like, yo, I want to give you guys an early prediction. I know Wonderboy's the better striker from distance. He definitely is the better kicker, more punching power on the side of Kamaru Usman. He also is the more menacing force inside of the cage with his overall physical strength and wrestling capabilities. Regardless of how good Wonderboy's movement is and how I believe there is some slowing to Kamaru Usman, he's still an absolute savage, and he still hits hard. When he finds that chin, he hits hard. He might not be, the most clean boxer, but he can absorb great punches, and I think that he can land heavy shots on Wonderboy in the punching range, which obviously he's going to have to be willing to take some kicks to close that gap. Expect pressure against the cage. Expect some trips. Now, I said I want a special 5-round fight. I promise you, if they're going 5, it's going to become a point where Usman starts getting successful with the takedowns in the later stages. I see Usman from top working good ground and pound on Wonderboy. I know Wonderboy's hard to finish off, but damn, Usman from top position, working towards control and ground and pound is possible. But, I'm going to early predict that Kamaru Usman takes him on a 5-round decision. Now, if it's a 3-round fight, I think it's even more of a no-brainer. It's Usman grind-heavy decision. When you're looking at 5 rounds, now some things can change because I don't want to, give people the narrative that I'm saying Wonderboy has 0 chance to win. Yeah, I'm predicting Usman by decision. Most likely he wins this. 70% chance, I would probably say. But then I look at Wonderboy's striking against Holland. I mean, it's still incredible. And what if he puts a high kick up on Kamaru Usman? I mean, he still dips a little bit to the side. He's slipping in the same way he got caught with Leon. Doubt it happens again. I doubt there's a, double of that. I just don't think Wonderboy has the physical strength or the stopping power in his hands to keep a Kamaru Usman off of him. And I just have a hard time seeing Wonderboy from range just kicking the shit out of Kamaru Usman. I don't think that's what's going to happen. So my pick is going to be Usman. He's going to be a minus 200 favorite or more in this fight to open. And I do think those lines are correct because probably he's going out there winning the fight. Even minus 200 could be like a bit of a steal because minus 300 would be more like that 70% range of probability for him to win. So minus 200 Usman to win. I'm not saying it's a great bet, but it's, something that you'd maybe throw in a parlay for that UFC 295 card. Early parlay, Usman, John Jones for me, because I think those are 2 winners. If, those, one of the matchups obviously confirmed with John Jones, but maybe we get this Usman fight with Wonderboy. It seems likely. I mean, I don't see why not. If Wonderboy said yes, Usman called him out first, just put the 2 in the cage together and let's fucking give the fans a show, because name value wise, it's a fight that gets me very excited. Now, the elephant in the room that I brought up at the beginning of the video was Shavkat Rakhmonov. He's without an opponent. He's trying to fight, but nobody wants to fight him. September 16th, he was booked to fight Kelvin Gastelum. Gastelum pulls out of that fight with injury. So, how do you guys feel about a short notice opponent? Somebody who's willing to come in at a catch weight. Who is that? It's Kevin Holland. I want to see Shavkat Kevin Holland for the simple fact that I know Holland is going to bring heat to him. He's improved his wrestling skills. And honestly, at 175, it's not a crazy idea. I know Kevin Holland said, I'm done cutting. I'm going up to 85. Listen, he's chasing the BMF. If we give him one of the most dangerous fights in that weight class for the right money, he's a prize fighter. He'll take it. And the Shavkat Rakhmonov fight with Kevin Holland would get a lot of fans excited. Now, because he stated he wants to go up to 85, I guess I have to somewhat mentally prepare for the rejection of that fight. So then I throw this one out there, and Bilal is not going to be willing to take the fight on short notice. So I'm saying we scratch the September 16th fight for Shavkat, and you put him in a number 1 contender fight against Bilal, because it seems like the UFC is not crazy about throwing him in the title picture. He's going to have to wait a while anyways because Colby Covington's fighting Leon Edwards. And if Colby Covington is somehow able to win that fight, there is a real possibility there's an immediate rematch there. Bilal might be a ways away from getting a chance at the world title, something that, fans don't always consider. And I think I'm also responsible of, doing this at times. You can blame me. Every fan is. we look at who's the champ, but, there's contenders on the come up that might be better for one period of time, but then ultimately timelines don't work out and they never become world champion. Tony Ferguson's a prime example of that. He worked RDA in their fight, and RDA was the champion of the world. I think that there's an argument to be made, but Eddie Alvarez versus Tony Ferguson, at the time that Eddie Alvarez was champ, Tony Ferguson would have been live to beat him too. So Belal is like the sleeper best guy in the division. Now, I'm not saying he beat Shavkat. That's a tricky fight to predict right now. I kind of think Belal's gas tank is actually a concern there. It's the OV. It's Shavkat Rakhmonov. It's hard to see him losing. But, dude, Belal's looking better and better every damn time that he fights. And Shavkat in the UFC hasn't gone that 5-round distance where we know Belal's got gas for days. And he's always a great underdog bet, honestly. Yeah, I think Belal and Shavkat might be where the stars are aligning. At least for me, that's what I want to see. Problem is, they're not going to be able to do it September 16th. When do they do it? Let's do it October. I believe the 21st, if I'm not mistaken. If I am, I apologize. But that's UFC 294, I think, in Abu Dhabi. That's the fight. Put them on the card. Shavkat versus Belal. You give Abu Dhabi a super fight between, two fighters that I think are going to have big support systems in that part of the world. I think that makes a lot of sense. Now, if they're looking for a bad motherfucker willing to jump in on short notice, Kevin Holland, catchweight 175 for September 16th to save the event. But maybe the Belal fight makes more sense. Imagine Jack Della Maddalena stepped in. He won't. I'm just saying. Imagine that. I think Shavkat Belal, even though I don't think that Belal is crazy about taking that fight either. I think everybody's ducking Shavkat because they know he is the most dangerous matchup. And at this point, though, you beat him, your name jumps through the roof. Everybody knows Shavkat now, at least people in the known. I mean, if you only watch UFC pay-per-view events, then okay, maybe you're missing out on who Shavkat is. But if you've seen him since the debut against Cowboy, the Brazilian Cowboy, not the, Cowboy Cerrone, even though he would have killed Cowboy Cerrone worse in the debut. I think Shavkat Rakhmonov is the boogeyman in the UFC. Let's do Belal versus Shavkat at UFC 294. We got Kamaru Usman versus Wonderboy at UFC 295. And I think we have great fights. Like, this end of 2023 is going to be absolute fire. And 2024 is going to be even crazier. I'm looking at Khamzat Chimaev on my screen right now because he's in the rankings right in front of Belal at welterweight, even though he's moving up to fight Paulo Costa. And that's on that 294 card. So that could be a massive pay-per-view event to get fans excited. Give me double thumbs up for Shavkat versus Belal. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this, early prediction, reaction / speculation type video. A lot of good things are coming, guys, in 2023. And I do think Shavkat's going to fight before the end of the year. And I also think that Wonderboy versus Kamaru Usman is going to end up happening at UFC 295. And that's going to be an absolute banger in New York City. Much love, my people. I hope you enjoyed the video. Smash the likes if you guys haven't. And if you're new, subscribe to the channel. If you enjoy these news / opinion type videos, make sure that you turn the post notifications on and put them to all so they start showing them to you. Because sometimes the algorithm holds back the news videos because it's a new market that I'm expanding upon. So keep it locked in on the MMA Experts channel. Much love to everybody watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you have nothing to say in those comments, as always, just drop a W in the chat to boost the algorithm for your boy. Much love, my people, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace, everybody.